It started like any other morning. Bright lights, chatter backstage, the smell of hairspray and nerves lingering in the air. The View was gearing up for yet another high-profile guest. Meghan Markle, Duchess, activist, pop culture lightning rod. A woman who, no matter where she went, left controversy in her wake. There was buzz around the studio, a quiet tension. Everyone knew something could go wrong, but no one said it aloud. The producers smiled, nodded, moved with robotic precision, coffee in hand, notes in the other. Meghan had been booked for weeks. It was supposed to be a friendly sit-down, maybe a little spicy, but safe, predictable, controlled. But Meghan had other plans, and so did Joy Behar. The tone darkened slightly. The moment she walked onto that stage, everything shifted. She wasn't smiling, not really. It was the kind of smile that says, "I've been coached to smile." That polished look, that royal, distant energy. But her eyes, they were scanning, measuring, calculating, and sitting in the middle of the semicircle of women, dressed in a crimson blazer and that signature grin. Joy Behar, veteran host, comedian, sharp-tongued, fearless. She saw through it all. She leaned in as Meghan took her seat. Her voice light to light us. She said, "Well, look who finally made it. The most talked about woman in the world." There was laughter, nervous chuckles. Meghan tilted her head politely, but under the table, her fingers curled into her palm. Voice softens, more reflective. To understand what happened next, you have to understand the stakes. This wasn't just an interview. It was a chessboard, a battle of perception. Meghan wasn't just trying to promote a podcast or a memoir. She was trying to rebuild a narrative piece together, a broken image in front of millions. She had been called everything: hero, villain, manipulator, victim. Some days, it seemed the world couldn't decide if they wanted to worship her or destroy her. And Joy wasn't interested in helping with that image. She was old school, unapologetic. She didn't play palace politics. Beat. The suspense begins to rise. It started slow. They joked about California weather, parenting, the cost of living. Meghan gave rehearsed answers. She nodded along. She smiled on cue. But Joy kept circling, pacing, poking holes in the facade, and then 6 minutes in it happened. Joy leaned back in her chair, folded her arms and said, "You know, Meghan, I've got to ask why. Does it always feel like there's drama wherever you go?" Beat silence. You could feel the air disappear from the room. Whoopi glanced sideways. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. The producers froze behind the cameras. Meghan blinked. Once, twice, her lips parted. But no sound came out at first. Then she laughed. That royal practiced laugh. "Well, Joy, I think that says more about the media than it does about me." Joy didn't smile. Does it? Or is there a pattern here? Boom. There it was. The first blow. Voiceover steadies, drawing us in. It wasn't just a question. It was an accusation, a challenge. And Meghan, she wasn't ready. Her posture changed. Just a little. Her chin lifted. The muscles around her eyes tightened. "No offense," Meghan said, her voice just a touch cooler. "But I don't think I need to defend myself on national television for living authentically." Joy raised an eyebrow. "Oh, honey, I'm not asking you to defend yourself. I'm asking you to be honest." And right there, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Shift tone to intimate. Like whispering a secret. Behind the scenes, producers began exchanging glances. They had a contingency plan cut to commercial if it got too heated. But not yet. They were watching. Something rare. Something electric. To women, to generations. To worlds colliding. Joy Behar didn't believe the fairy tale. And Meghan Markle was getting tired of pretending it was real. Reflective tone, a little sad. It's easy to forget that celebrities are people. But under that perfect makeup and designer blouse, Meghan was unraveling. She had built a fortress of branding interviews, documentaries, quotes about empowerment and peace. But today, she was trapped in real-time. Live. Vulnerable, exposed, and Joy wasn't giving her space to breathe. "I think the American people," Joy said, "want more than buzzwords. They want to know who you really are." Meghan paused. For a moment, her mask slipped. You could see it, the fear, the wariness. She wasn't just being asked questions. She was being challenged to exist. Without the narrative she had carefully constructed. Pause. Then a whisper of anticipation. That's when everything began to shift. This wasn't just a tense moment on live television. It was the beginning of a storm. A moment so raw, so unscripted, It would echo across social media, headlines, and kitchen table conversations for weeks. And at the center of it, a woman trying to hold on to her dignity, while being pulled apart, one question at a time. Quiet beat. Then, Meghan smiled again, but this time, it didn't reach her eyes. She leaned forward, her voice low. Well, Joy, with all due respect, maybe you should ask yourself why a woman speaking her truth makes you so uncomfortable. Sharp inhale. Joy leans back. The gloves were off. This wasn't just an interview anymore. It was war. Voiceover tone softens, but with dramatic weight. And what no one knew then, not the viewers, not even the co-hosts, was that this moment, this exact moment, would be the spark that lit the fire. Because Meghan Markle wasn't going to sit there and be humiliated. She had spent years surviving the British tabloids, the palace pressure, the internet hate. But something about Joy's words cut deeper. It wasn't just about what she said. It was about how it made Meghan feel. And when someone feels like the world is closing in, they do one of two things. They break, or they rage. One last beat, dramatic pause. And Meghan, she was about to rage, like never before. Asterisk. The car ride from the studio was silent. Meghan sat in the back seat, staring out the tinted window, watching the streets of Manhattan blur past. The city looked cold now. Hostile. She had come here for a victory. What she got was a reckoning. Publicist sat beside her, scrolling through her phone in a panic. Socials lit up. She murmured, "It's not good." Meghan didn't respond, because she already knew. She could feel it in her skin. She had lost control. Flash of internal monologue, emotionally charged. How did this happen again? How did one woman's words shake me this much? Why does it still hurt? She wanted to scream, but instead, she clenched her jaw and stared ahead. Voiceover turns intimate. By the time she got back to her hotel suite, the damage had spread. Clips were everywhere. Millions of views within an hour. News banners screamed, "Meghan Markle embarrassed on The View." Joy Behar destroys Meghan's narrative. Meghan storms off set after heated argument. None of it was technically true. But it didn't matter. Perception had already become reality. She paces the suite, dialogue to herself. Frustrated. "They wanted this," Meghan muttered. "They wanted me to snap, to look weak, to be the villain." She stood in front of the TV, watching a replay of herself sitting at the table. Paused on a freeze frame, where her face looked unkind, unstable. She turned it off. Phone rings. Her manager. "You need to get ahead of this." "I'm not apologizing," Meghan snapped. "No one's asking you to apologize." But silence makes it worse. People are filling in the blanks. She hung up. Silence was a luxury she no longer had. But speaking felt like a trap too. Flashback, woven in Harry calling. Harry's voice came through the phone, soft and steady. "I saw it." A pause. "I'm sorry." "I don't need sorry," Meghan whispered. "I need air." He sighed on the other end. "Do you want me to fly out?" She didn't answer right away, because she wasn't sure if she wanted comfort or revenge. Voiceover intensifies. In moments like this, you either disappear or you fight back. Meghan chose the latter. Within 2 hours, she was on the phone with her team, drafting a statement, planning a countermessage, spinning the moment into a platform. Keyword: misunderstood. But even as she dictated lines about compassion and conversation, she could feel something shifting inside her. Something darker. Something she couldn't bury this time. Back in the studio, Joy watches it all unfold. Meanwhile, Joy Behar was back in her dressing room, sipping tea. The buzz in the hallways was electric. Producers whispered. Crew members scrolled through Twitter like it was the Super Bowl. Someone knocked. Whoopi stepped in, her voice low. "You know she's gonna come for you, right?" Joy shrugged. "Let her." "You poked the lion." Joy smiled. "Someone had to." Voiceover deepens, showing both women's internal worlds. Joy wasn't a stranger to controversy. She'd been on The View for decades. She had outlasted scandals, walkouts, feuds. What was one more? But this felt different. She wasn't up against a politician or a pop star. She was up against Meghan Markle, the internet's favorite paradox. To some, a survivor. To others, a manipulator. And Joy had just slapped that narrative in the face on live television. More external reaction. Celebrities chime in. Other celebrities began picking sides. Some tweeted vague support. "I stand with women who speak their truth. Shame on Joy Behar for dragging another woman down." Others supported Joy. Finally, someone said what we've all been thinking. Joy spoke truth to power. Meghan watched it all. Each tweet like a dart. Each post, a reminder of how quickly public sympathy could slip through her fingers. Back to narration Meghan's tipping point. Later that evening, Meghan sat alone by the window of her suite. The city lights sparkled below, but she didn't see them. She was staring at a blank Instagram post draft. Caption. Sometimes being strong means saying nothing. She deleted it, then typed, "Let them misunderstand you. Their perception is not your responsibility." Deleted that too. Nothing felt right. Nothing felt strong enough. Nothing felt true anymore. Phone buzzes, unexpected name. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Private caller. She hesitated. Then picked up. Hello. A pause. Then a familiar voice. Joy. Opening parenthesis dialogue. Heavy, quiet, raw. "I figured you wouldn't want to talk," Joy said. "But I didn't come to gloat." Meghan didn't respond. Joy sighed. "I've said a lot of things in my time. Gotten into plenty of messes. But what I said today, I meant it. And I still do." Meghan's voice was flat. "So why call?" "Because I've also been the woman everyone hated for a week. And I know what that feels like." Silence. Meghan swallowed hard. "I'm not the villain." "I know. Then why treat me like one?" Joy paused. "Because sometimes people need to hear something they don't want to, even if it hurts." Meghan let out a bitter laugh. "I've heard enough." "Then stop listening to them. And listen to yourself." Voiceover resumes, soft but powerful. The call didn't end in tears. No apology, no forgiveness, just the shared silence. To women. Two different worlds, both carrying wounds the audience would never see. The next morning, Meghan posts. By morning, Meghan had made her decision. She opened her laptop, wrote a blog-style post. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't curated. It was raw. And for the first time in a long time, it felt real. Excerpt of fictional post-narration. "I'm not perfect. I've never claimed to be. But I am human. And yes, sometimes that means I walk into rooms with more pain than grace. Sometimes I speak from scars instead of wisdom. But I've survived too much to pretend anymore. If you're looking for a woman who never falters, you'll have to look elsewhere. Because I falter, and I feel, and I rage, and I heal. On my own time. On my own terms." Voiceover intensifies emotionally. It went viral in hours. Millions shared it, quoted it, cried over it. The narrative began to shift again. The tide that had turned against her began to soften. People didn't want perfection. They wanted pain, truth, humanity, and Meghan, whether by choice or accident, had just given them all three. Meanwhile, Joy reads it. Back at the studio, Joy read the post. Alone in her green room, she didn't say much, just folded the paper, and smiled. Because maybe she hadn't destroyed Meghan. Maybe she had forced her to show who she really was. Not the brand, not the Duchess, just Meghan. The climax moment. And for the first time since the interview, Meghan felt something unexpected. Peace. Not because she won. Not because the headlines changed. But because she finally said what she meant and didn't ask for permission. She could feel it in her chest. The pounding. Not from nerves. Not from fear. From fury. Meghan had been underestimated before, by the press, the public, the palace. But now, on live television, by Joy Behar. This wasn't just a jab. This was humiliation. And not the elegant kind she'd learned to handle in royal halls or celebrity circles. No, this was raw, public, unforgiving. Meghan speaks. Voice clipped, but polite. "I think it's dangerous to imply that authenticity is somehow dramatic," Meghan said, looking Joy dead in the eye. Joy didn't flinch. "That's the thing, Meghan. Authenticity is great. But when everyone around you seems to get burned, maybe the fire's not coming from outside." Opening parenthesis. Beat. Closing parenthesis. OOF. The audience murmured. A ripple. A sound that says, "Did she just say that?" Meghan blinked. Her face froze. Inside, her stomach turned. She wasn't prepared for this. Not this level of confrontation. Not from someone like Joy, who had nothing to lose. Voiceover continues. More intense now. The camera cut to Whoopi, who tried to smooth things over. "All right, ladies, let's reel it in a little." But Meghan raised a hand. She wasn't done. Voice dropped a register.com. Cold. "I came here to have a conversation about the future, about healing. Not to relitigate tabloids and internet rumors." Joy smiled. "Then maybe you should stop bringing it up in every interview." Beat. Meghan stares at her. The gloves were well and truly off now. The table had turned. into a battlefield. Zoom out to narration, building tension. Producers behind the scenes were frozen. The control room debated cutting to commercial, but they DN single quotes. TIY, because this wasn't chaos. It was TV gold. You couldn't script this. Two powerful women, standing their ground, exposing years of tension between media and celebrity, truth and performance. And Meghan. She was losing control of the narrative. Second by second, the other co-hosts chime in, nervous, trying to calm the moment. Sarah tried to pivot. Well, Meghan, what's next for you? More projects? More storytelling? Meghan took a breath. Composed herself. Yes, I have projects that center women's voices. Real stories. Not the ones others write for them. Joy rolled her eyes, not obviously. Just enough for the camera to catch. And Meghan saw it, saw the disrespect. That was the final straw. Dialogue-heavy moment. Meghan's voice sharpens. You know what, Joy, Meghan said, turning fully toward her. I've sat across from people with real power. People who tried to silence me. And yet, here I am. Joy nodded slowly. And yet, somehow, you're still the victim in every story. Audible gasp from the audience. Voiceover drops to a whisper. Emotional and slow. There it was. The line that pierced through the air like a knife. Not loud. Not cruel. Just ... True. Or at least it felt true to Joy. And that made it dangerous. Because, sometimes, the most devastating words aren't the ones shouted. They're the ones spoken softly. When they hit home, Meghan falters just slightly. She reached for her water. Her hand shook just a little. And in that tremble was a world of rage she couldn't show. Because rage, for someone like her, was dangerous. If she raised her voice, she'd be called hysterical. If she stayed silent, she'd be accused of being calculated. So she did what she always did. She smiled, a fake, furious smile, and said nothing. Voiceover resumes. Intimate, like letting the audience in on a secret. This was the cost of public life. Of fighting for space to exist without being dissected. Every glance, every pause, every word weaponized. She had walked into the view, thinking she could control the room. But now, she was cornered. Flashback narration. Emotional context. Years ago, in the palace, Meghan had been told to stay quiet, to be less visible, to stop making waves. She refused. Then came the exile. The documentaries, the headlines, the Megxit, firestorm. Now here she was, in America, her homeland. Still, she couldn't speak freely without being cut down. She was exhausted, and Joy. Joy was the embodiment of everything that pushed back. Old media, sharp wit, no patience for polish. Dialogue. Joy softens just a little. Look, Meghan, Joy said, voice lowering. I don't hate you, I actually admire you. But sometimes, it feels like you want all the benefits of being untouchable, without the accountability that comes with power. Beat. Meghan leans forward. I don't want to be untouchable, she replied. I want to be human. Joy nodded. Then act like one. Voiceover turns reflective. Those words stung. Because they weren't said with malice. They were said with clarity, and sometimes, that's worse. Because clarity leaves no room for defense. The show moved on. But not really. They cut to commercial. The cameras stopped rolling. The audience clapped coldly. But the silence between Meghan and Joy, deafening. Meghan didn't look at her. Didn't say a word during the break. She stared straight ahead. Lips tight, chest rising and falling. She was trying not to explode. Trying not to let the cameras catch what she really wanted to do. Scream backstage. A different world. Meghan's inner voice now. Backstage. An assistant approached her gently. Water, ma'am. Meghan didn't answer. She was shaking. I'm fine, she said. But she wasn't. Inner monologue woven with narration. Because how could she be? She had spent years curating a version of herself. One that stood tall against critics. One that preached about kindness, resilience, self-worth. But today, on that stage, Joy had exposed something deeper. Insecurity. Not the kind tabloids talked about. The real kind. The fear that maybe, just maybe, the world didn't believe her anymore, that they were tired of her story, tired of her truth. Voiceover, somber, pulling the audience in. Outside, Twitter was already exploding. Clips going viral. Hashtags trending. Meghan vs. Joy #unfiltered view. Is Meghan overexposed public? Opinion turned like a tide. Some defended Meghan, called Joy cruel, outdated, bitter. Others applauded. Joy called her brave, honest, a voice of reason. But Meghan, she was just watching it all unfold from her dressing room, watching herself be shredded. Again. And this time it wasn't the British press. It was home, her own people, her own country beat. She stood up, looked in the mirror, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked tired, wounded, and angry. Not just at Joy, but at herself. Back to the studio. The final segment begins. They brought her back on for the closing segment. Smiles plastered, polite laughs. But the warmth was gone. It was like watching actors finish a scene they hated. Meghan didn't speak much. Joy barely looked at her. And when the show ended, the applause felt hollow. Fake. Fake, the kind of applause that follows discomfort. Not admiration. Voiceover. Emotional climax building. It should have ended there. A bad interview. A bad day. But Meghan couldn't let it go. Because rage doesn't just evaporate. It builds. And back in the hallway, just as she was about to leave, she turned, walked straight back toward the set, and found Joy alone by the coffee station. Dialogue-heavy scene. Tense. Confrontational. Meghan's voice was quiet but lethal. You humiliated me. Joy looked up, sipping her coffee. No, Meghan, you did that all by yourself. Meghan stepped closer. You think you're brave. You're just mean, bitter, jealous. Joy raised an eyebrow. Jealous? Of what? Of someone who's lived through more hate and pressure than you ever have. Joy sighed. I've lived through plenty. And guess what? I didn't make it my brand. That broke something. Voiceover slows. Dramatic weight. Meghan's hands clenched. Not because she wanted to hit her, because she wanted to scream. But she didn't. She did something worse. She smiled. Enjoy the headlines. Joy, you'll be trending. For a day, I've been trending for years. And with that, she walked out, back straight, eyes forward. But inside, she was on fire. A week passed. Just 7 days. But in the life of Meghan Markle, a week could feel like a lifetime. The headlines had cooled. The outrage faded, replaced by new scandals, new distractions. The machine had moved on. But something inside Meghan hadn't. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't trying to prove anything. She wasn't selling an image. She wasn't protecting her crown. She wasn't playing the perfect version of herself. She had raged, and she had survived it. She walks along a California beach, alone, hair pulled back, sunglasses hiding her eyes. The ocean air was quiet, healing real. She watched the waves crash against the shore, the foam folding in on itself, like it had something to confess. And maybe, in a way, so did she. Because when everything had fallen apart in that studio, when Joy's words had torn through her like glass, Meghan had expected to feel broken. But now, she just felt awake. Voiceover shifts inward emotional monologue. They didn't break me. They saw something raw, and decided it was weakness. But I know better now. I don't need to be graceful all the time. I don't need to be palatable. I just need to be me. Cut to Joy backstage at The View. 1 week later, Joy adjusted her microphone in the mirror. Another day, another guest. But something lingered in her eyes. Not regret, not triumph, just quiet. She hadn't expected the backlash to come her way. But it had. Some had praised her for being honest. Others had slammed her for being cruel. But what mattered most wasn't the noise, it was what she felt. And strangely, what she felt was respect. For Meghan. For holding her ground. For coming undone. And still standing. Dialogue. Joy to Whoopi, backstage. You know what's funny? Joy muttered. What? Whoopi asked. I didn't think that would be the moment people remembered. Whoopi looked up from her notes. It's not the ones we plan. It's the ones we survive. Joy smiled, half-heartedly. Ain't that the truth? Voiceover returns, soft and thoughtful. Sometimes, confrontation doesn't destroy you. Sometimes, it strips everything else away until only the truth remains. And the truth was this. Meghan Markle didn't need approval to be powerful. She didn't need to be adored to be whole. She had tried to play the game, the interviews, the curated moments, the measured words. But it was the unraveled moment. The unplanned rupture. That finally set her free. Cut to social media. Fans react with heart. People began sharing their own stories. Women posted selfies with tear-streaked faces, and the caption, "Rage is not a flaw. It's a language." Others wrote, "I didn't know I needed to see Meghan crack until I saw myself in the pieces." The post became a movement. #Rage is real. #unapologetic ally Meghan. #let her feel And Meghan saw it all, not as fuel for her brand, but as validation of something deeper. She wasn't alone. Seen Meghan with Harry and their children, playing in the backyard. Laughter filled the air. Not forced, not staged. Real Meghan knelt in the grass, a smear of dirt on her cheek, while Archie tackled her with a toy dinosaur. Lilibet giggled nearby, trying to chase a butterfly. Harry stood by the porch, watching with a soft grin. This was the life she'd fought for. Not the platform, not the headlines, the stillness, the freedom, the right to feel everything, and not be punished for it. Dialogue Meghan to Harry, later that night. Did I make a mistake? She asked quietly, her head resting on his shoulder. No, he said, wrapping his arm around her. You made a choice, and you lived through it. She exhaled. That's what surviving looks like, he added. Messy, loud, human. She didn't respond, but her silence said everything. Voiceover draws us in emotional finale. Meghan would go on to do more interviews, more projects, more podcasts, but something had changed. She no longer tried to be understood by everyone. She stopped chasing the impossible approval of strangers, because she had already faced the worst of it, and she didn't shatter. She burned, then rebuilt, not as the Duchess, not as the headline, but as herself. Unfiltered, unedited, unafraid. Cut to Joy final words on the show. 1 week later, she looked into the camera during a Hot Topics segment, and for the first time since that viral interview, she addressed it, not by name, not with drama. Just this. Sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones we didn't plan, but maybe those are the ones that matter most. She paused, and in that pause was everything. Voiceover closes with slow, powerful cadence. The world moves fast. Outrage fades, trends die. But what stays is truth. And on that day, in that moment, in front of millions, Meghan Markle finally let the truth out. And even though it was messy, even though it hurt, it was hers, and it was enough.